Today, Wednesday the 2nd of October 2019, was the second reading of the Domestic Abuse Bill in the House of Commons. The Domestic Abuse Bill does contain a gender-neutral definition of domestic violence, which is good, but the rest of the document is very much focused on women worsting, and the funding that is ring-fenced at the end of it is completely disproportionate and doesn't recognise the needs of male victims to any acceptable extent at all. Aside from being the second reading of the Domestic Abuse Bill, it was also the final day of the Tory party conference in Manchester. But thank God, Philip Davies travelled back to London to be at the reading of the bill because he provided some much, much needed balance in a debate that was profoundly and, there was just a consensus that women were the victims. Every case that's been mentioned, it's still going on at the moment. There's still an hour and a half to go on it. And I've given up because I can't listen to any more feminist revisionism of the facts. But yeah, every account that's been given has been of a female victim and a male perpetrator, perhaps bar one, which I didn't actually hear, but Mike Buchanan assures me there was one mentioned. And what everybody is referring to, what all the MPs are referring to, are women victims and how we need to support women and how there are too many women going through this and how women are in danger, which is just galling. I can't bear it any longer. So Philip finally got to have his say at 4:21 p.m. I will provide a link as and when I can in the description to the video of it on Parliament TV, probably, with timings. But I'll give you a rundown of what he said for now, or if you can't be bothered hopping over to see that. So, the first thing he said was he gave his commendations to the MP for Canterbury, Rosie Duffield, who'd given a very touching personal account of her experience of domestic abuse, which she experienced when she was an MP. And all credit due to her. Apart from giving a very moving and personal account, she also did point out that victims and survivors come in all shapes and sizes, so that was a good thing to hear. It was quite fair and balanced, and she urged people to seek help if it's safe to do so, and told people that their MPs are always listening. I suspect that clip will go quite viral, to be honest, and, fair enough. He then went on to say that he wanted to stop the idea that's been pushed forward in the debate so far, that domestic violence is a gender-based crime. He said it's not a gender-based crime. He said men are perpetrators, men are victims. Women are perpetrators, women are victims. And he said that those in the House have a duty to treat everybody equally before the law. He advocated for the same consequences for perpetration, regardless of gender or sex, and he advocated for the same support, regardless of the sex of the victim. He then went on to explore to mention a couple of official figures. For example, the first one he gave was that women are 1.5 times more likely to be victims of domestic abuse if they're in a lesbian relationship as compared to a heterosexual relationship, and he pointed out that we should not leave them behind by gendering our definition of domestic violence. excuse me. He pointed out that men are just as likely to be the victims of male perpetrators, as women are likely to be victims of male perpetrators. He said, this is not gender-based violence, this is unacceptable violence by all sorts of people, and we should treat everyone equally by the law. It's his mantra. At this point, Maria Miller intervened to point out that women are more affected by domestic abuse. And she said that statutory guidelines should be clear about this so that services are informed and provide services that reflect the nature of domestic violence as a gendered crime. He said, this isn't about either or. I want to see all victims of domestic violence get the treatment they need. I don't care whether that's a man or a woman. We should want to provide these services for everybody. Whether someone is in a majority or a minority category is irrelevant. And then Philip Davies made 2 suggestions for things that he wanted added to the definition of domestic abuse. The first one was parental alienation. He spoke about that. There were a couple of tuts from the SNP. He said that he was surprised that the SNP don't think it's a particular problem, suggested that they meet some victims of parental alienation and pointed out that it can lead to suicide. He then suggested that false allegations should be included under the definition of domestic abuse, which are very fair and good suggestions, I think. So, what he's said is unlikely to have any impact on the bill. That's unlikely to change due to his suggestions. However, we do at least have it on Hansard record, which is about as much as we can ask for at the moment. So thank you, Philip Davies, for doing what you did today.